The corporate tower had already dressed itself for celebration by the time Henry arrived. White lights spilled down marble pillars like frozen rain, reflecting off polished floors that had never known the weight of tired boots. The air smelled of pine, cinnamon, and expensive perfume. People laughed easily here. Success made laughter light. Henry moved through it quietly, almost invisible, a man meant to pass through halls like this without leaving a trace. His gray work shirt was faded from years of washing, the fabric soft and thin at the elbows. His hands were rough, marked by small cuts and old scars, still faintly smelling of metal and dust from the vent he had repaired earlier. At 36, he carried himself with restraint, the kind that comes from learning not to take up space. Beside him, his daughter Audrey was the opposite. She bounced with excitement, her dark curls springing as she tugged his hand toward the glowing dessert table, eyes wide at the sight of chocolate fountains and glass trays stacked with sweets. Henry watched her with a love so fierce it bordered on pain. He gave her everything he had, even when it wasn't enough. No fancy dresses, no private lessons, no promises he couldn't keep. Just warmth, honesty, and a tiny apartment where the radiator clanged through the night, and a piano at the community center where she sometimes heard him play when he thought no one was listening. High above the lobby, Ingrid Whitmore stood with the champagne flute balanced loosely in her fingers, surveying the room like territory she had already conquered. At 34, she had turned a struggling legacy into a dominant empire. Her presence commanded silence when she wanted it. Ice blue eyes, sharp and assessing, missed nothing. People feared her decisiveness, admired her ambition, and whispered about her ruthlessness. No one ever accused her of being sentimental. What they didn't see was the old ache she carried, buried beneath tailored confidence. 16 years earlier, when belief came easily and love felt permanent, she had given her heart to a boy with dark hair and reckless brilliance. A pianist who played like he was confessing secrets to the universe. One summer night, under a sky thick with stars, he had played her a song written only for her. A melody meant to say what words never could. 3 weeks later, he was gone, taken by rain and twisted metal. The song died with him, or so she believed. Since then, music had become background noise, something safely distant. A sudden cry cut through the hum of conversation. Audrey had slipped. Champagne slicked the marble, and her small body hit the floor with a sharp sound that snapped heads around the room. Blood bloomed through her tights. Henry was at her side instantly, dropping to his knees, his world narrowing to her trembling breath. He pressed a clean handkerchief gently against her knee, murmuring reassurance until her sobs softened into hiccups. Before he could lift her, a man's voice sliced through the moment, sharp with irritation. Well-dressed, polished, entitled. Complaints about disruption, about decorum, about knowing one's place. His words landed like blows. Henry held his jaw tight, swallowing the anger that burned behind his eyes. Audrey's lip quivered, and something in him cracked. Then another voice entered, calm and lethal in its control. Ingrid Whitmore descended the steps with measured grace, her gaze locking onto the man with quiet authority. The room stilled. She spoke softly, but every word carried weight. An apology was demanded. It was given, hollow and forced. The balance of power shifted without spectacle. Ingrid's attention moved to Henry. For a moment, her expression softened. She saw how he held his daughter, how his body shielded her instinctively. Something unfamiliar stirred, a sense of recognition she couldn't explain. She directed him to the first aid kit, granted him access to the private elevator. Henry nodded, gratitude tightening his throat, and carried Audrey away. When they returned, Audrey bandaged and sleepy but smiling, laughter had reclaimed the space. Someone had uncovered the piano, turning it into a novelty. Fingers stumbled across the keys, wrong notes, celebrated with drunken applause. Audrey tugged Henry's sleeve, her voice hopeful. Just one song. He hesitated. Public music belonged to another life. To dreams crushed beneath falling steel and silence. But her eyes were trusting, and it was Christmas Eve. He sat. The first notes fell gently, like breath against glass. Conversations faded. The melody unfolded with aching precision, swelling with longing and restraint, loss and devotion intertwined. Henry closed his eyes. His scarred hand moved with defiant grace, memory guiding what pain could not. Above, Ingrid froze mid-step. The sound reached her like a ghost. Her hand gripped the railing as the past surged forward, vivid and undeniable. Every note was right. Every pause exact. The song she had buried alive was breathing again. She moved toward the piano, heart tearing open, as the final note faded. Her voice emerged unsteady, barely a whisper. "Where did you learn that?" Henry did not answer her right away. He stood slowly, the echo of the last note still trembling in the air, and offered only a quiet deflection, calling it an old melody picked up long ago. Ingrid heard the lie immediately, not because it sounded false, but because it sounded practiced. Before she could press further, Audrey appeared at his side, heavy-lidded and warm against his leg, praising the music in a soft, sleepy voice. The moment cracked. Henry gathered his daughter's coat and left quickly, eyes fixed on the floor, as if escape were the only way to breathe. That night, Ingrid did not sleep. The melody looped relentlessly in her mind, precise and merciless. She arrived at the office before sunrise and pulled Henry's employee file. Sparse. Ordinary. Maintenance staff. No education listed. No spouse. Just a child. Nothing that explained what her heart already knew was impossible to ignore. When a grainy phone recording surfaced online, she watched it alone, hands shaking, the truth vibrating in every frame. By evening, she was sitting across from a man she had not seen in years, older now, quieter, but still carrying the same reverence for music. He listened to the recording without interruption, then removed his glasses with care. He confirmed the melody but broke her memory open with one sentence. The song had not been finished by the boy she loved. Only the beginning was his. The rest belonged to another student. Quiet. Overlooked. Gifted. The name was lost to time, but the truth was not. The song had always been a collaboration, and the one who completed it never claimed it. The next morning, Henry didn't come to work. Nor the next. Security found his apartment empty. Rent paid. No forwarding address. The realization settled heavy in Ingrid's chest. Her questions had not healed the wound. They had reopened it. Days later, snow fell thick and soundless. The building was nearly empty when music drifted through the lobby again, stripped of ornament, raw with resignation. Ingrid took the stairs, drawn by the sound, and found Henry at the piano, shoulders bowed, playing the melody slower, heavier, like a farewell he had never spoken. She spoke his name softly. He didn't turn at first. He said running had been a mistake, but staying had felt dangerous. Audrey liked the building. The lights. The kindness. He owed the truth, even if it cost him peace. Ingrid stood behind him and asked the question she already knew the answer to. He turned then, eyes steady, and admitted it without embellishment. He had finished the song. Not for recognition. Not for glory. For her. He had been invisible, poor, certain he had no place in her world. When the boy she loved offered to tell her the truth, Henry refused. The song was meant to make her happy, not to pull her into a choice she never asked for. When she asked why he wasn't playing anymore, he held up his hand. Scars mapped the story clearly enough. An accident. Equipment failure. A contract that ended as quietly as it began. The company responsible bore her family's name. She felt the blood drain from her face. The silence shattered when others arrived. Accusations flew. Manipulation. Scandal. Reputation. A future already negotiated without her consent. Ingrid stepped forward, placing herself between Henry and the men who believed power excused cruelty. She rejected the engagement without ceremony. Dismissed threats without fear. Confronted a lifetime of control in a voice that did not tremble. When they were gone, the lobby felt strangely light. Audrey stirred awake and asked why everyone had been angry. Ingrid knelt to her level and told her that sometimes adults forget how to be kind. Audrey nodded, satisfied, and leaned into her father. In the weeks that followed, the truth surfaced publicly. Documentation emerged. The story shifted. What could have been a scandal became something rarer. A quiet act of integrity, delayed but not erased. Ingrid redirected resources toward a scholarship bearing the boy's name, and another, finally, bearing Henry's. A year later, the melody returned again, but its ending had changed. Hope replaced grief. Possibility replaced regret. Ingrid listened, tears unashamed, knowing the song had not been stolen from her past, but carried patiently into her future.